Alright, what's going on, everybody? This is Generation Z, and I am your host, Russell. Hello. So, what a weekend I had. Played basketball, as I always do, every Sunday, and my hip is totally messed up now. Like, I can barely walk. So, if I collapse, that's why. But there's some new news that has just come up. Not regarding Ukraine, actually, nothing to do with that. Although I've been following that. What a weird thing. You know, man, Ukraine's not looking so good right now. But we've got this coming out today. Apparently, Facebook Messenger for Windows stopped working. And they have been announcing this for about a week now, but today is the day, and it has stopped working. Here's a news story I just got from TNW. It says Facebook today began prompting Facebook Messenger for Windows users with a message saying the app is shutting down next week, which this is a story from last week. Without much of an explanation, the company plans to kill off Windows support for Facebook Messenger on March 3rd. We are sorry, but we can no longer support Facebook Messenger for Windows, and it will stop working on March 3rd, 2014, the message states at the top of the application. We really appreciate you using Messenger to reach your friends, and we want to make sure that you know that you can keep chatting and view all your messages on Facebook.com. And then they have a Learn More button. The Learn More link unfortunately takes the user to generic messages page on Facebook's Help Center. The only section relevant to Facebook Messenger for Windows is for uninstalling it. Facebook Messenger for Windows installer is nowhere to be found on the official site anymore. The page specifically says the app is available for Android and iOS, but not Windows. Of course, I have an Android phone and I am using I'm using the Facebook Messenger on Android. It works just fine here, but I liked having it as a standalone on my desktop because then I wouldn't have to keep switching tabs to see what's going on Facebook. The news comes less than 3 days after Microsoft announced Facebook Messenger for Windows Phone would arrive in just a few weeks. We've been working with Facebook testing out their implementation for a while. Joe Belfour, Microsoft's corporate vice president and manager of Windows Phone, was quoted by TechCrunch as saying during a press conference at Mobile World Congress 2014 in Barcelona, Spain. It's looking good, and we will have it for our customers soon. So, Facebook Messenger for Windows Phone, it seems to be the new thing for Microsoft. It seems Microsoft can only keep Facebook in one of its platforms at a time. The company is, of course, attempting to merge the Windows and Windows Phone stores, but that's still a long way off. How they're going to manage that, I don't know. They're going to have to either make the Windows Phone way more powerful, or they're going to have to hope that desktop computers are not very powerful at all. Facebook Messenger for Windows was released in March 2012, following a limited beta test in November 2011. An OS X version has long been expected, but it seems that that's kind of unlikely right about now. And TNW contacted Facebook for more information about the decision, and they said they'll update if they hear back. They did get an update, though. A Facebook spokesperson said, "I can confirm that we are notifying people who use Facebook Messenger for Windows that it will no longer be available as of March 3rd, a Facebook spokesperson told TNW. The chat client was available for just under 2 years. And Facebook Messenger for Firefox is also shutting down on March 3rd, today. So, I guess now if you want to message people on Facebook on Windows, you cannot use the standalone chat application anymore. You have to use either your phone or you have to use the Facebook.com tab. Just keep that open. So, hooray. But that's what's going on with Facebook right now. And other than that, Facebook's looking pretty good. You know, they don't have really any problems presently. Which is good for them because, you know, a big company like that usually runs into some issues. And speaking of odd things occurring in the computer world, this is an odd thing that's occurring in the computer world. A Minecraft movie may be coming to a theater near you, according to The Verge. The creator of Minecraft, Marcus Notch Persson, just broke some big news on Twitter. Warner Brothers has plans to make a feature film based on the game. I kid you not. Deadline has more details, reporting that the studio has acquired the film rights from developer Mojang AB, with the Lego movie producer Roy Lee overseeing the project. The financial details of the arrangement weren't disclosed, but the movie makes sense from Warner Brothers' perspective, which has seen the Lego movie do incredibly well at the box office. We thought it was rather spectacular ourselves over at The Verge, but I gotta say I didn't think the Lego movie would do near as well as it did. Of course, a popular property isn't enough to guarantee success on its own. Plenty of ill-fated reboots and game adaptations have proven that. But Minecraft provides a clean slate from a story perspective that will give the right filmmakers plenty of room to tell whatever tale they choose. Whether that combination will come together, still remains to be seen. In the meantime, you can check out Two Player Productions' documentary on the creation of the game, which I contributed money towards, and my name is actually in the credits. Yes, I, your host, Russell, my name is actually in the credits of the Two Player Productions Minecraft documentary. If you look close enough, you can see it. And Marcus Persson says, someone is trying to leak the fact that we're working with Warner Brothers on a potential Minecraft movie. I want it to be the leak. So, there it is from the man himself. There is in fact going to be a Minecraft movie. What in the world are they going to do with a Minecraft movie? You know, I mean, what's there to say about Minecraft other than, look, you build stuff. And there's no real storyline, there's no characters, there's nothing to Minecraft, essentially. Why? I don't get it, man. I just don't get it. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to have, maybe, I'm thinking, this is my idea, this is my prediction for the Minecraft movie. Okay, you listening? Here it is. My prediction for the Minecraft movies, they're going to have people from YouTube who do Minecraft videos, you know, the more popular ones like Rooster Teeth or what have you. And they're going to have them in the movie, and it'll be like different characters voiced by them. Like, it'll be their characters from their videos, actually in the movie. That's what I'm thinking they're going to do. And they better have Davo in there, or I'll be very upset. But that's what I think is going to go on. That's my prediction for the Minecraft movie. Either that, or it's not going to be any good at all. Because I can't imagine they're going to make a good Minecraft movie. I mean, it's a movie about a video game. You know? Like, name one video game movie that was good, ever. And I guess you could argue the Final Fantasy animated things, but yeah, I mean, that's different. It was made by the same people who made the games. But, man, I just don't get it, man. I don't see it happening. I don't see it happening and working. That's kind of the thing. I mean, they have the Lego producer behind it, so you can sort of see where they're coming from, but I don't know. It might do well in the box office just because it'll be a viral thing, and, you know, it'll be all over the internet. Oh, look, a Minecraft movie, because people are like that. But when it comes to the actual quality of the film, I just don't see it being any good. Maybe I'm just cynical. Well, I know I'm cynical, but maybe I'm just, you know, maybe I'm just always on the dark side of things. Ooh. That reminds me, speaking of the dark side, I watched a reaction video from, I think, Comic-Con or something like that, way back from 1999, and they showed, it was like the first showing of the trailer for the Star Wars Episode 1. Oh, those poor people. They're so excited, they're like, man, a new Star Wars movie is coming out. And they're all excited, and you just feel so bad for them, because Episode 1 was just so bad. Well. Sad too. Episode 1 could have been saved if they just left out Jar Jar and the midichlorians, and it would have been a decent Star Wars movie, sort of. Because Anakin wasn't exactly my favorite either. And they totally chose the wrong actor for him in the second movies. Ugh. Well, anyway. Obama is joking about creating Iron Man, but the military is actually already doing it. In fact, we talked about this previously. Not to say that you missed anything, but this is a subject that we've covered before, so this is not new news, basically, is what I'm saying. The fact that they're creating an Iron Man suit is nothing new, actually. Lest you think you missed anything. A lot of people don't know about this, actually. But the DoD is, in fact it's DARPA, I believe, is working on a suit called TALOS. It stands for Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit. And it's supposed to be bullet resistant. And Iron Man, yeah. According to The Verge, though, President Obama dropped quite the news at a press conference last Tuesday. Basically, he said, I'm here to announce that we're building Iron Man. Which, you know, it's a funny joke. You know, the president could have a sense of humor. I'm not Obama's biggest fan. You know what I mean? But it's nice to see a president who has a sense of humor. It's good to see that sometimes. Of course, the president was only joking. He was really announcing the creation of high-tech manufacturing hubs. But that doesn't mean there wasn't a sliver of truth into it, I should say. The United States government has in fact been creating a suit designed to give its wearers superhuman strength and perception. It's called the Tactical Assault Light Operator Suit, or TALOS. TALOS, the Hands of Fate. The U.S. Army announced work on it last May and said it was hoping to have an initial suit within the year, with an eye toward potentially having it on the field within 3 years. So what year is it now? 2014, 15, 16, 17. So 2017, apparently they're hoping to have this armored suit in the field. The suit truly sounds like a work of science fiction. It would give its wearer full-body bullet protection, include built-in weapon of its own. It'd be able to monitor its wearer's vitals, including body and skin temperature, heart rate, hydration, and by resting against their skin. A display on the suit would show its remaining power, and potentially much more. The Army wants TALOS to use networking and an onboard computer to give its wearer an enhanced awareness of the situation and the action around them. It's easy to imagine that could be shown to them in a manner a bit like what Tony Stark sees inside his helmet. Last we heard, the suit was coming along about on schedule. Earlier this month, a Navy admiral said that unpowered prototypes were expected to be ready by June, though he said actual deployment might not come until 2018. What the early suit will actually be like is something that we'll have to wait to see, but it's clear the government is not short on ambition or ideas for the project. So the U.S. military is in fact working on an Iron Man-like suit. Although I would liken it more to Halo, or really any other powered armor. I mean, you can use your imagination and think about powered armor. I mean, think about that. It's kind of cool. And I think we're the only company that's developing it right now. Actually, Crysis is a good example. We may very well be the only country developing something like this right now. I'm sure the Chinese are going to get on it, and probably the South Koreans as well, and the Japanese. And oh boy, I'd love to see what the Japanese rendition of the armored suit would be. It'd be gargantuan. They can connect together to create a larger one. And yeah, armored suit, powered armor suits. Speaking of combat, though, what about Crimea? Man, not looking good over there, is it? You know, it's like they're wanting to secede from Ukraine, except not really. And that one guy, the Navy Rear Admiral, said that he sides with the Crimeans, and he's not gonna side with Ukraine and all that stuff. NATO is saying that Europe's peace is at risk over Ukraine. Of course, Europe has not really been in that much peace that long. I mean, it's only been, what, 99 the Yugoslav wars ended? And it's, oh gosh, it's been about, what, 15 years since then? Yeah, 15 years since then. So that's about 15 years of people not shooting at each other that much. That's a good amount of time, I think, to get things going again. Seems to be. And China has joined Russia in an agreement, apparently. What that agreement is, well, I don't know. Is it an economic agreement? Is it a military agreement? What's going on? Well, according to Sky News, which is the British equivalent of Fox News, it says Russia and China in agreement over Ukraine. So Russia and China apparently aren't really at odds with each other when it comes to Ukraine, which is an interesting development. That means that if war breaks out, we really can't do anything. We can protest, we can say, I don't like that much, but when it comes right down to it, we can't really do anything. Because China essentially owns us when it comes to the economy. And Russia, well, we don't really want to go to war with Russia. I certainly wouldn't want to. Now, where does this stand technologically? Well, Russia is not exactly the lowest end of technological prowess when it comes to military. In fact, Russia has some pretty good military tech, not as good as us when it comes to their armor and their planes, but their ground troops and their weapons are perfectly serviceable. But here's the story, though, from Sky News. Russia and China in agreement over Ukraine. Russia has said China is largely in agreement over Ukraine after other world powers condemned Moscow for sending troops into the country. Hundreds of Russian soldiers have surrounded a military base in Crimea, preventing Ukrainian soldiers from going in or out. The convoy blockading the site near the Crimean capital of Simferopol includes at least 17 military vehicles. Russian troops are also reported to have taken control of a ferry terminal in the city of Kerch on the eastern tip of Crimea, which has a majority Russian-speaking population. Ukraine's defense ministry said 2 Russian fighter jets violated the country's airspace in the Black Sea on Sunday night, and that it had scrambled an interceptor aircraft to prevent provocative actions. And reports claim pro-Russian protesters had occupied a floor of the regional government building in Donetsk, The 11-story building has been flying the Russian flag for the last 3 days. Ukrainian Prime Minister Arseniy Yatsenyuk has insisted that his country will never give up Crimea to anyone, and urged Russian forces to withdraw. And keep in mind, Crimea is in a state of occupation presently. The Red Army, well, the Red Army, not really anymore, but the Russian army is there. I wasn't even alive during the Cold War. I don't know why I called it the Red Army. In an interview with Sky News, Foreign Secretary William Hague said the crisis is likely to take some time to resolve. Now, the problem is here, John Kerry is on his way. In fact, he may already be there in Ukraine, to Kiev. And John Kerry is not exactly the most well-spoken person when it comes to foreign politics. In fact, I have no idea why he's in the position that he's in, because he just seems to mess things up by saying that you're not acting like a democracy, and then saying we need to take military action right now, and yada yada. William Hague says, though, I think we probably are going to are looking at a long period of very active diplomacy and looking for solutions to this, since there is no sign of change in the Russian position on this. Well, really, no kidding. It's impossible to be optimistic at the moment. We are not in any position to be optimistic about the security situation and what is happening in the Crimea. They call it the Ukraine and the Crimea. Ugh. The crisis has had a huge knock-on effect on global stock markets, with Moscow's stock exchange plunging as much as 10% on Monday morning. Russia's central bank raised its rate from 7% to 5.5% as the ruble hit a historic low against the dollar and the euro. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov discussed Ukraine by telephone with his Chinese counterpart Wang Yi on Monday, and claimed that they had broadly coinciding points of view on the situation there, according to a ministry statement. So it looks to be that Russia and China are pretty much in agreement as to what should happen in Ukraine, whatever that is. Speaking at the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva later, Mr. Lavrov said Russian troops were necessary in Ukraine until the normalization of the political situation, and dismissed threats of sanctions and boycotts. He added, we call for a responsible approach, but put aside geopolitical calculations and, above all, the interests of the Ukrainian people first. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Qin Gang said, China has always upheld the principles of diplomacy and the fundamental norms of international relations. At the same time, we also take into consideration the history and the current complexities of the Ukrainian issue. As the tense standoff continues, the other 7 nations of the G8 urged Moscow to hold talks with Kiev. We, the leaders of Canada, France, Germany, Italy, Japan, and the United Kingdom, and the United States, and the President of the European Council and the President of the European Commission, joined together today to condemn the Russian Federation and their clear violation of the sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine, they said in a statement. We decided that for the time being to suspend our participation in activities associated with the preparation of the scheduled G8 summit in Sochi in June. So, Russia's not looking so good in the international community right now. And British Foreign Secretary William Hague, who is in Kiev for talks on the crisis, said Russia has taken operational control of Crimea. He described Russia's intervention in Ukraine as the biggest crisis in Europe in the 21st century. And that very well may be true. If shots are fired, that's it, that's the end. Because there's going to be war. If shots are fired, there's going to be war. Unless someone, somehow, through some miracle, decides, yeah, it's not so bad. But I very much doubt that. At a news conference with Mr. Yatsenyuk, Mr. Hague said, if this situation cannot resolve itself, if Russia cannot be persuaded to respect the sovereignty and the territorial integrity of Ukraine, there will have to be other consequences and other costs. Mr. Hague added, the UK is not discussing military action. Is not discussion? Probably I should say discussing. Is not discussing military action. Our concentration is on diplomatic and economic pressure. Prime Minister David Cameron will later chair a meeting of the National Security Council on the British and international response to the grave situation in Ukraine, where he will press for a European summit on the crisis. European foreign ministers are holding an emergency meeting on Ukraine in Brussels to table a joint response to the military incursion. Mr. Yatsenyuk heads a pro-Western government that took power in the former Soviet Republic when its Moscow-backed president, Viktor Yanukovych, was ousted last week. U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry will visit Kiev on Tuesday to show strong support for Ukrainian sovereignty, because we have to voice our opinion on this matter as well. It's just sad that we have to keep butting our noses into things. I mean, it's not good what's going on over there in Ukraine. I don't know what side I take, really. I don't like the Russians and what they're doing there. I don't like the Ukrainians and what they're doing there. So I don't really take any side in the Ukrainian conflict. I think it should be left to resolve itself, really. We should be left out of it. Because, remember the last time the Russians and other populations over there went crazy, led to World War I, then it led to World War II. So, yeah, it might lead to World War III. It could just happen. But the thing is, and here's something that I want to press. I'm not a fear monger. I don't think that we should be terrified of the situation. I think these things are out of our control, essentially. It's up to divine intervention right now as to what's going to happen, as it always is. That's just how it is, in my belief. So, really, the thing that we should do is to pray for the people in Ukraine and for the leadership that they not do anything drastic that would lead to deaths. That's the last thing we want. But something that we need to keep into consideration is there's always going to be talk of nuclear war. People are always going to be afraid of nuclear war. And there is going to be, it's a thing to be afraid of. It really is. But here's why I'm not afraid of it. Because someone put it very well online, actually, and I wish I knew who it was so I could credit them properly. But let it be known, this is not a quote from me. It's from somebody else whose name I cannot find. But essentially how it goes is, two enemies, they hate each other, and they're wading through a pool of gasoline. They're surrounded by it. One guy has 2 matches and the other guy has 5. That's nuclear war. See, the point is, no matter who strikes a match, they're both dead. Mutually assured destruction, mad. That's why nuclear war is probably never going to happen. If it does, it's going to be some fluke, which is out of anybody's control. So really, all we can do is sit back, relax, and watch what happens. Because Crimea is out of our control. It's not like we the people can say anything to the Russians that'll sway their position, or the Ukrainians, or anybody. It's just what's going to happen is going to happen. And from here, like I say, we can only sit back and watch and pray that it doesn't go badly. And that's that's the ultimate scary thing, is that we really have no control over anything when it comes to world politics, or really much of anything at all. It's all up to the powers that be up above in heaven, man. But, man, Crimea is like a scary thing to read about. And, see, what drives me nuts, though, is CNN's running these headlines like, Russia declares war, and you're like, oh no, and you read the article and it just says, the Ukrainian Prime Minister says that Russia may as well have declared war. It's like, really? I mean, CNN's doing pretty unresponsible headlines, if you ask me. Alright, hello. We're back. What's up? This is Generation Z. I am your host, Russell. Oh boy. Man, my knees are killing me, man. It's driving me nuts. You're probably saying, oh, you're such a kid. You know, you're just a kid. Why are you saying your joints are hurting? Yeah, well, they are. You know. See, it's a funny story, actually. I messed up my hip, like, forever ago. Like, about 3 years ago. Don't ask how, it's embarrassing. But ever since then, if I do anything, you know, running for a long time, or in this case playing basketball real hard, it's just, like, it drives me crazy, so I can, like, hardly walk today. Which is great, because I need to go downtown and walk a lot today, so. Oh well, you know, what are you gonna do? But, you know, that's the way it is. I actually like going downtown. I was at North Shore Friday. Man, what a nice place. I haven't been to North Shore, actually, in forever. And, yeah, I know, it's surprising, right? Like, you live near Chattanooga, why don't you go all over the city? Yeah, I don't know. You know, I'm not much of a finding a parking place type of person, I guess is what it is. Like, if I could just walk into the city without having to bother about, you know, without having to worry about a parking place, then it wouldn't be near so bad. But, man, finding a parking spot is the worst downtown. Because you got Republic Parking, right? Which charges you, like, a ton to park anywhere. It's like $10 if you're gonna park here for 3 hours. You know, it's stupid rates like that. It's not actually that much, but it's a dumb rate like that. I can't stand Republic Parking. Forget those guys. But then you got the parking meters, you know, because the city's got to get their money. And forget those guys, man. It's like, yeah, you want to park public property? Hey, sorry, you gotta pay. You gotta pay money to park in public property. That's just how it is. So now I gotta remember to keep quarters in my car all the time so I can park places. And it's like, what is wrong with you people? Why can't I just park? I had to worry about parking meter. Like, jeez. The reason I bring this up is I'm a little bit annoyed because I got a $25 parking citation for parking in a space that's owned by Republic Parking. It's like, sorry, it's gonna be $25 to park here if you don't have a permit. Like, you have to have a permit to stop your car somewhere for a little bit of time. What are we coming to? And I'm not mad that, you know, I'm not mad at the person whose house I stopped at. That's not you know, I should have parked at a meter. I really should have. But it gets me a little bit annoyed when it's $25 because I made a one little mistake. You know, oh, that's gonna be $25. Like, for real? $25 because I forgot that I can't park there. You know, it makes you wonder, like, is there a person out there who just, like, watches the cars, is like, oh, there's one, runs out there, prints out the ticket, and slaps it on there. It also makes me wonder, not that I'm going to do this, I'm going to pay the thing. I just need to wait a few days because I have to have money in my account to actually pay for things. But it makes me wonder, like, what would happen if I didn't pay? I'm not saying I'm not going to pay. I am going to pay it. Don't worry. You know, don't get your panties in a bunch. I will pay it. But I'm saying, what would happen if I didn't? Like, they just keep racking up charges, I guess. It's an extra $20 for every 14 days you don't pay. But it makes me wonder, it's not like a parking ticket from a police officer. It's a citation from a public parking that's asking me that I pay them. So what would happen if I just didn't pay? Like, what would they do? Well, my favorite thing is, what would happen if people collectively decided not to pay? Like, if just everybody stopped paying them for their parking citations. You know, like, what would happen? They'd have to go out of business. I have a new idea. What if we all stopped paying and just parked wherever we want? Because then Republic would have to go out of business. It'd be the end for them. I'm starting to like that idea. Well, anyway, moving on. Tor, you may be familiar with Tor. It's the onion router is what it's called. Not a router as in like a physical thing that you plug your Ethernet cables into. No, the onion router, Tor, is a device, not a device, but it's an online service. And the onion router lets you access .onion sites, and it's supposed to be sort of anonymity. It's anonymous, so you can browse the web anonymously, and you know, pretty cool. I like it. It's okay. It does the job, and that's what matters. Is it does the job. It's not perfect. It's not perfect encryption because there's no such thing. But you know, for what it is, it's not bad. Not bad at all. And you can access .onion sites, which means you can get to the deep web with it, if you so choose. So when Silk Road was up and running, you could have gotten to it through there. But now those days are gone. But there's an update with Tor. What are they up to now? Well, I'll tell you. Tor, as it stands right now, they're developing their own anonymous, you heard me, anonymous messaging service. Its own anonymous IM tool to hide chat from spying eyes. I'm starting to like that idea. I mean, think about that. An anonymous chat thing. Now, you know, I've got Talks, which is an anonymous chat program. Except it's not really anonymous because people can know who you are. Right? I mean, it's not perfect. But for what it is, it works. It's not perfect, but it's okay. You have to add contacts and all that sort of thing. But Tor is developing their own thing. Let me get back on track. Tor developed its own anonymous IM tool to hide chat from spying eyes, according to Ars Technica. The Tor Foundation is moving forward with a plan to provide its own instant messaging service called the Tor Instant Messaging Bundle, or TIMB. The tool will allow people to communicate in real time while preserving anonymity by using chat servers concealed within Tor's hidden network. In planning since last July, every July, peas grow there. Since last July, as news of the National Security Agency's broad surveillance of instant messaging traffic emerged, the Tor Instant Messaging Bundle, or TIM, should be available in experimental builds by the end of March, based on a roadmap published in conjunction with the Tor project's winter dev meeting in Iceland. So, chatting anonymously. I like that idea. I really do. The idea of being able to chat without the NSA spying on my chats sounds pretty nice. Not because I do anything illegal. I don't. Not because I even chat about things I wouldn't want my mother to see. Nope. But the thing is, you know, I mean, think about that. It's a matter of principle, is what it really is. What it comes down to is a matter of principle. I don't want some greasy guy in a government building reading my chats. I just don't. Sorry. I just don't think that way. And I can't stand that. Don't even bring this up. I can't stand that argument where people go, well, if you have nothing to hide, then you really don't get it, do you? If I have nothing to hide. That's the problem with America, man, is that people say, well, if you have nothing to hide, then what's the problem? No, that's exactly the problem. I don't have anything to hide, so you've no reason to search me, right? Tim will connect to instant messaging servers configured as hidden services as well as to commercial IM services on the open internet. The effort, which is funded by an anonymous donor organization, was called Attentive Otter. To ensure the anonymity of the user, Tim will force all instant messaging traffic through the Tor network, regardless of whether it's aimed at a server on the Tor network or not. Tim will be based on InstantBird, an open-source instant messaging tool, which itself is based on Mozilla's Zulrunner cross-program runtime environment. InstantBird was chosen after the Tim team decided against using Pigeon or libpurple, the GPL, open-source instant messaging library used by Pigeon and Audium, mostly because of the amount of effort that would have been required to audit and maintain the library, and also because of some concerns about how seriously Pigeon's developers took security concerns. The Tim project will remove libpurple from InstantBird, a task that Mozilla and InstantBird team were already working towards as they moved the software to a pure JavaScript implementation. The first experimental release of Tim won't include off-the-record capability, OTR. OTR mode encrypts traffic further and uses an exchange of digital signatures to verify the identity of each party, but the signatures can't be checked by anyone outside the instant messaging session and can't be used to prove identity outside of the session. The Tor team is hoping to develop off-the-record components for InstantBird to get them merged into future versions of the main InstantBird code line. So off-the-record mode for chat, meaning that, well, your identity is verified by the two people within the chat, assuming it's only two, but it can't be verified by anybody else, which is good because if you're a leaker, you know, if you're an Edward Snowden or Bradley Manning, then say you're being interviewed by The Guardian, then they can verify your identity, but nobody else can, which is pretty cool. Now you have to worry about being set up by the government saying, I want to interview you, I'm with The Guardian, wink wink, and then it turns out they're not. So you still have to use common sense and practicality, but I'm pretty excited about Timb, gotta say. The idea of anonymous chats is pretty appealing to me. Gotta say, I'm gonna be looking after that one, and I'll update you as it goes on with Timbuktu. Having lost $468 million in bitcoins is kind of a big deal. Losing $468 million. And that's in bitcoins. That's a huge deal, isn't it? $468 million. There's a lot you could do with that amount of money. You could create several companies with that amount of money. Mt. Gox has lost all of that money. And they're also filing for bankruptcy protection, according to Ars Technica. Mt. Gox has applied for bankruptcy protection in Japan, telling a Tokyo district court that it has outstanding debt of about $63.6 million, with assets worth a little more than half that amount. According to the New York Times, the French-born CEO, the French-born CEO, Marc Karpelès, then appeared at a press conference and bowed in contrition and apologized to the Japanese. In Japanese. "I'm truly sorry to have caused inconvenience," he said, citing an unnamed company lawyer who also spoke at the press conference. The Wall Street Journal reported that Mt. Gox lost 750,000 bitcoins, about $512 million worth, actually $512.5 million worth, belonging to customers, and over 100,000 bitcoins, around 55 million, of its own money. A few hours later, Karpelès told Ars that he cannot comment much for now, and said that we will be updating MtGox.com soon with more details. Mt. Gox, which was once the world's largest Bitcoin exchange, suddenly shut down for 4 days, 4 days ago, after weeks of sustained DDoS attacks and transaction malleability problems, which led the company to halt withdrawals entirely. As far as the purported internal documents that have been released this week, Karpelès told Ars, "I cannot comment on documents not used by us. Not issued by us, I should say." But he did not deny that they're authentic. So Mt. Gox is not looking very good. Well, they're actually looking kind of criminal right now, which is why there's an investigation into them. Did they do anything wrong legally? Well, we'll have to find out. We'll have to wait for their ruling. The Times noted that Mt. Gox's filing under Japan's civil rehabilitation law, which is similar to Chapter 11 in the United States, will mean that a bankruptcy supervisor is set to develop a restructuring plan and will also be responsible for handling any payment of claim distributions to its creditors. That process could take anywhere from several months to several years. Karpelès concurred with the assessment, telling Ars it's not just any bankruptcy. In the U.S., it'd be closer to what is known as Chapter 11 bankruptcy. In an odd twist, according to Reuters, Karpelès told the news conference that Mt. Gox wanted to file a criminal complaint against what it said was a hacking attack, but had no specific means of doing so. Which makes me wonder, do they know who hacked them? I'm really curious about that. Do they know who hacked them? Was it our government? Was it just a private individual? Who knows? Was it China? It could have been China, because China is very much against Bitcoin. But then again, so are a lot of Americans in high places. So, makes you wonder, what in the world happened with Bitcoin, with Mt. Gox? We simply don't know. The price is not looking so bad right now, though. It's in the $500 range. So, things are looking okay for them so far, as it stands. It's just that it's a shame that it had to happen, I guess, because it makes Bitcoin look bad. And of course, now the mainstream media, all they'll talk about is how bad Bitcoin looks, because that's just how they are. Well, Tsutomu Okubo, there we go, now a member of the Japanese parliament and former banker at Morgan Stanley, told Ars that he had begun discussing the new Bitcoin-related regulation with Financial Services Agency, the Ministry of Finance, and the Bank of Japan a year ago. However, their response is that Bitcoin is neither currency nor regulated settlement in Japan, he said by email. Regarding exchanges like Mt. Gox, there is no regulation now. He added that he had sent a letter to Prime Minister Shinzo Abe asking for clarification on Bitcoin-related rules. "I think we should consider to protect clients from Ponzi scheme-type transactions and regulate money laundering transactions," Okubo added. "I am working with the Financial Services Agency and the Ministry of Finance concerning domestic investigation. The National Police Agency could investigate if victims of Mt. Gox claim their losses to that agency. I don't know if they have started such investigations." So Japan doesn't look like they're going to be banning Bitcoin, which is nice, but they are looking like they might start regulating it, which is not so nice. But what are you going to do? You know? Oh well. Still, the Bitcoin is not looking very good at all. Like, what happened? Just all of a sudden, out of nowhere, all these problems occurred. And people got really rich off of Bitcoin. Don't forget, when it was sold at like 30 cents per coin and people bought in then, they bought hundreds of coins. They became very, very rich very, very quickly. People sold when it was at the $700 mark and they made a lot of money. There's one guy who was posting on the internet where he's buying a Lamborghini and he had no idea how to drive a Lamborghini. He just suddenly made a ton of money and all this stuff, and people were really mad at him because he didn't know how to drive a Lamborghini. He was posting on an automotive board. But, wow, you know, downhill so fast. But again, it's still not worthless anymore, or yet, rather I should say, because I won't consider it dead until it's below the worth of the US dollar. That's when I'll say it's been a failure, because presently it's still way above the worth of the US dollar. It's about 500 US dollars for one Bitcoin. So until it reaches that point, I'll say, well, they're not doing so bad. But, man, it's just how it goes, you know? It's weird. Bitcoin's weird. But anyway, the Texas Appeals Court says police cannot search your phone after you've been jailed, according to Ars Technica. I was actually just watching a video of a guy in Texas who had been pulled over, or rather he had not been pulled over, but he had been switching drivers with his wife, who'd been driving from New Mexico all the way through Texas, and they had been switching drivers from her to him. He hadn't gotten into the driver's seat yet. He hadn't started operating the vehicle, and police started harassing him, and they demanded his ID, and he doesn't have to give it to them because he's not operating a motor vehicle, and he isn't under arrest. And it's just weird, you know? I mean, that's something people don't know, is if you're detained, you actually don't have to give your ID. It's only when you're arrested. And I'm talking about police, of course. So if they detain you and they say, let me see your ID, let me see your ID, let me see your ID, you don't have to give it to them. You don't ever have to give your ID unless you're driving a motor vehicle, and it's talking about your driver's license. Unfortunately, you do have to give your driver's license to prove that you are a capable driver, a licensed driver. Then you do have to give that info over. But if you're walking around on the street, you don't have to give your info at all. At all. So that's pretty cool, I think. But the story goes, on Wednesday, the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals ruled that law enforcement officials do need a search warrant to search an arrested person's cell phone after they've been jailed. The ruling did not decide whether it's legal or not for police to search a suspect's phone at the incidence of arrest, which is currently a hotly contested subject. I should say no, because really they have no business looking at anything of mine unless it's pertinent evidence. And my phone does not count as pertinent evidence when I'm being arrested, or if it's at a traffic stop or what have you. Or if I'm filming a protest, they can't seize my phone. Well, they can, but they can't legally. They do it anyway. For now, however, 7 Texas appeals court judges have ruled that a person has a legitimate expectation of privacy over the contents of their cell phone. I should say so, while the phone is being stored in the jail property room. An 8th judge wrote a dissenting opinion. Well, good for you, 8th judge. I hope your fancy robe is taken away. The case, Texas versus Granville, involved Anthony Granville, a student who was arrested for causing a disturbance on a school bus. After Granville was arrested, his cell phone was placed in the booking room. Later, a school resources officer was told that Granville had taken a photo of another student urinating in the boys' bathroom prior to his arrest. The officer, who had not been involved in the arrest of Granville, went down to the booking room, obtained Granville's phone, turned it on, found the photo, and printed out a copy of it. The officer then kept the phone as evidence and charged Granville with improper photography, which is a state felony. Improper photography. Oh, brother. Texas, man. Granville's lawyers moved to suppress the evidence against him, but the prosecution maintained that an officer can search anything in the jail's booking room if there's probable cause. The trial judge disagreed, and the state appealed. But Texas authorities did not find much more support in the Court of Appeals either. In her major ruling yesterday, Judge Cochran wrote, "The Fourth Amendment states that the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated." Now remember that, shall not be violated. Meaning they don't have that capability. But, they do. Legally, they have no capability to do so. So if they do, they are breaking the law, the highest law of the land, the Constitution. So they really cannot break that. The term papers and effects obviously being carried a different connotation in the late 18th century than it does today. No longer are they stored only in desks, cabinets, satchels, and folders. Our most private information is now frequently stored in electronic devices such as computers, laptops, iPads, and cell phones, or in the cloud and accessible by those devices. But the central concern underlying the Fourth Amendment has remained the same throughout the centuries. It is the concern about giving police officers unbridled discretion to rummage at will among a person's private effects. This is a case about rummaging through a citizen's electronic personal private effects, a cell phone, without a warrant. You have to have a search warrant to look through my cell phone. And I would argue that here in the state of Tennessee, I would argue that here in the state of Georgia, there in the state of Georgia, I should say, any state I happen to be in where I'm under arrest or whatever, and they start searching my phone, I'd say, hey, you need a search warrant for that. And there's been a state ruling now in Texas that declares that. So hopefully that gets declared in other states too. Although the ruling does not prohibit all warrantless searches of cell phones, the ruling is still very important, perhaps for less obvious reasons. The court recognizes that just because you've surrendered something to someone else, especially when that surrender is involuntary, that you still maintain an expectation of privacy in the data and that item, wrote Hani Fakouri, an attorney for the Electronic Frontier Foundation. That has implications beyond this case and is really the heart of the issue in the NSA litigation, which the court itself acknowledges towards the end of the opinion, even citing the Clayman versus Obama, as well as other surrounding law enforcement use of the new technologies like cell site data. So if it belongs to me, then it can't be searched without a warrant. That's just how it is. And I would argue that in every state I'm in. Because, this is a Texas state ruling, so it has no bearing here. But really, I mean, think about that. They can't just search your phone without asking or without getting a warrant from a judge. That's simply not how it is. Well, they couldn't legally do it anyway. They do it anyway, but they can't legally do it. I mean, you see these stories all the time about people, like, remember back when Occupy Wall Street was such a big thing? People had their cell phones stolen by police. And that's really what it is. It's theft by someone with a badge. It doesn't matter if they have a badge, it's still theft. That's just how it is. Cops can't just steal your stuff. If they do, they should be put in jail. That's just how it is. If a cop breaks the law, he should be thrown in jail. Not some, paid leave or vacation or what have you. He should be thrown in jail like any ordinary person. They should be held to a higher standard, actually. I would say if a cop breaks the law, they should have a heavier sentence than a regular citizen. That's really how I see it. But anyway, in just a few minutes, we're going to be talking more about this. We're going to talk about Mt. Gox and how they set up a call center in Japan for queries. And Nissan eliminates blind spots with a rear-view mirror that doubles as a wide-angle LCD screen. So hang on, and we'll talk about that in just a few seconds. Alright, hello. What's going on? Got an update here on Ukraine. Not much of an update, but it's an update from the Telegraph. NATO warns that Russia is risking Europe's peace and security. That's what NATO is saying, according to the Telegraph. Military personnel member believed to be a Russian serviceman is standing guard on a military vehicle outside of Simferopol, and it's a picture of this Russian military personnel guy, and we actually don't know if he's Russian or not because he has no marks on him. But he's sitting on an APC and he's just looking out over a crowd. Tensions rise as Vladimir Putin mobilizes all reservists, and the U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry has been flown into Kiev. Ukraine is mobilized for war amid warnings from NATO that Russia's annexation of Crimea threatens peace and security in Europe. With tension nearing a boiling point, Anders Fogh Rasmussen, the NATO Security General, vowed the organization would stand by Ukraine, a nation of 46 million, which occupies a vital strategic position between Europe and Russia. Speaking before he chaired an emergency meeting of ambassadors from the 28 NATO member states, he said, "Russia must stop its military activities and its threats." The United States dramatically intensified pressure on Moscow, threatening to remove Russia from the G8 club of developed economies. John Kerry, U.S. Secretary of State, condemned Russia for what he called an incredible act of aggression and threatened very serious repercussions, including Russia's possible expulsion from the G8. You don't just, in the 21st century, behave in 19th century fashion by invading another country on a completely trumped-up pretext, he said. Mr. Kerry announced a surprise trip to Kiev this week in a show of support for the embattled leadership, as Washington and its allies strongly criticized Moscow for violating Ukraine's sovereignty. Now that's a little bit hypocritical coming from Kerry, and I'm not saying that he's wrong, but that's a little bit hypocritical coming from Kerry. I mean, think about Syria. There was really no proof at all that the chemical weapons attack was perpetrated by Assad. And the Russians embarrassed U.S. leadership by calling them out, essentially, saying there's no proof. And the Ukrainians, the Americans, not Ukrainians, not Russians, Americans, there we go, had to sort of, lay their ears back and put their tail between their legs and walk off. What could we do past that point? So the Americans got kind of embarrassed by the Russians, and I think they're trying to get payback now for that. Saying you can't invade a country on trumped up pretext, but then they're shooting themselves in the foot yet again by saying that, because they're opening themselves up to be called out on that, just like I'm doing now by saying, look, Syria happened. And basically, you tried to invade Syria based on ridiculous pretexts that were completely unproven. I challenge you to find proof that Assad was responsible for those chemical weapons attacks, and you really can't. In fact, you really can't find who at all was responsible for those chemical weapons attacks, because nobody knows except for the people who perpetrated them, and maybe some people in the United States and Russian government who aren't going to tell, because chances are it's probably CIA. But, it's just ridiculous. But it says here, this is a further story here. Russia chose this brazen act of aggression, and if Russia wants to be a G8 country, it needs to behave like a G8 country, he continued. Maybe they don't want to be a G8 country. You ever consider that? Putin may find himself with asset freezes on Russian businesses. American businesses may pull back. There may be a further tumble of the ruble, Mr. Kerry. He said that Moscow still has the right set of choices to defuse the crisis. Otherwise, G8 countries and other nations were prepared to go to the hilt to isolate Russia. The Kremlin spokesperson refused to comment on the remarks, saying the Kremlin had no comment at the moment. The U.S., Britain, France, and Canada withdrew from preparations this week for a G8 summit in June in Sochi, the Russian Winter Olympic city. President Barack Obama was due to speak to allies last night about the Ukraine crisis, said a White House spokesperson. So did he or did he not? Apparently no. William Hague, the foreign secretary for the UK, arrived in Kiev to meet the interim government installed by Ukraine's parliament after President Viktor Yanukovych fled last weekend after 3 months of tumultuous protest in the city center, sparked by his decision to abandon a trade pact with the European Union in favor of a Russian bailout. The sovereignty and territorial integrity of Ukraine has been violated, and this cannot be the way to conduct international affairs, he said. Ukraine has put its armed forces on combat readiness and issued a general call-up of the 1 million strong reserves to respond to Russia's seizure of the Crimea Peninsula. However, Kiev's small and under-equipped military is seen as no match for Russia's might. The readiness of Ukraine's armed forces was dramatically called into question after the government was forced to charge the head of the Navy with treason after he defected to the renegade Crimea leadership. Admiral Denis Berezovsky announced that he had switched allegiance to the pro-Russian authorities a day after he was appointed by interim President Alexander Turchnev. And we've all heard about this before. But that's what's going on in Crimea and Ukraine right now. And of course I'll bring you further updates as they come in. Hopefully we don't see war by the end of the week, because we really don't want that. But this reminds me of the whole North Korea situation, where we were all worried that it was going to come to a head and that they were going to launch missiles, but it turned out that it didn't happen, so that was good. But this is a real problem, because Ukraine could decide to launch some sort of offensive, and Russia could decide to launch some sort of offensive, who knows? And it could all blow up and cause a crisis. We might get involved. NATO might become involved. And that would be a real problem. So we can just hope that that doesn't happen. It'll be NATO versus BRICS. BRICS is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. There we go, South Africa. But man. Well, back to that story in Texas, though, where it's been determined that the police cannot search your phone without a search warrant even after you've been arrested. Several cases challenging the NSA's bulk collection of phone metadata have been decided with differing outcomes. This story comes from Ars Technica, by the way. In December 2013, a federal judge found the NSA's activities unconstitutional, but in a separate case, another federal judge found the collection of information legal. Obviously, this ruling only extends to Texas law, but it affirms that cell phones contain the equivalent of a person's private effects and should be protected from search as such. And that's absolutely correct. A phone does equate to someone's personal effects. I have personal things on my phone, bank account information, what have you. I don't actually, but I'm sure I have private info on my phone that I don't want people to have, passwords, whatever. I don't really want the police to have access to that, just as a matter of principle. Not because I have anything to hide, I just really don't want the cops to know what's on my phone, just because they have no business knowing what's on my phone any more than anyone else does. This is a major victory not only for privacy but for common sense, wrote Fed Kate, a professor of law at Indiana University. Over the past decade, the government has asserted and often acted as its assertion that it is free to collect data from our cell phones for national security purposes. There goes that buzz phrase again. Whenever we cross borders or if we happen to be arrested. This case reflects a small but very significant judicial rejection from that assertion. It's been updated, the article has been updated to reflect that the 7 judges made up the majority ruling and 1 dissented. 1 dissenting judge. Wonder who that was. Still though, very good ruling over there in Texas. That's good to see, because really, you don't want the cops to search through your phone. You just don't. And unfortunately, that can really happen here in the States. And it happens all too often. If you remember back to when Occupy Wall Street was going on, you'll remember that people's cell phones were searched all the time. They had their cameras stolen by police. They had video cameras stolen by police. They had cell phones stolen by police. All manner of personal effects were stolen by police and then rifled through and had data deleted and all that sort of thing. A few journalists had their cameras stolen. I remember one particular case, and they got it back with pictures deleted. And they could prove that the pictures were deleted by the file order. Like you go DSC 101, DSC 102, DSC 104, it just skipped 3 because that photo had been deleted. So, it was very messed up. But speaking of messed up, more developments now from Mt. Gox. They set up a call center in Japan for queries from worried Bitcoiners. Yes, Mt. Gox is at it again. Bitcoin investors left hanging by the sudden shuttering of the Mt. Gox electronic market will soon have a way to learn more about the fate of their cryptocurrency holdings. A Japanese phone hotline announcement on the company's website, Mt. Gox, said that a call center had been set up to handle inquiries about the company. The call center will go live on the morning of March 3rd, Japan time. The notice said an overview of the situation surrounding Mt. Gox's application for starting its bankruptcy procedure called a civil rehabilitation, would also be posted on March 3rd, so today. Mt. Gox filed for bankruptcy. Mt. Gox, of course, is that Bitcoin exchange that was recently shut down. Filed for bankruptcy protection on February 28th, revealing in a court that it had approximately $63.6 million in debt, nearly double what its assets were worth. The filing arrived as it was reported the company lost about $486 million worth of bitcoins during a series of cyber attacks on its exchange. Below is the notice in full, which I will read to you. It says here, announcement regarding an application for commencement of a procedure of civil rehabilitation. An overview of the situation should be published here shortly, probably March 3rd, 2014, Japan time. They have contact information. A call center has been established to respond to all inquiries from Mt. Gox. The call center is planned to start on March 3rd, 2014. All inquiries to Mt. Gox Company Ltd. should be made to the following telephone number. I'll go ahead and give it out. They posted it publicly, so why not? So if you want to call Japan, the telephone number is +81 for the country code 3-4588-3921. Working hours are Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Japan time. Please refrain from contacting the office of the supervisor or investigator. So again, the number for the Japanese, the Japanese call center for Mt. Gox, their helpline, is country code 81, and then the number is 3-4588. That's 4588-3921. That's 3921. So if you want to call the Mt. Gox Bitcoin helpline, you can. The country code is 81. I would do it here, but it's like $5 a minute to call Japan, so that's okay. Nissan eliminates blind spots with a rear view mirror that doubles as a wide-angle LCD, according to Extreme Tech. Now, this is pretty cool tech here. As car tech goes, here's a small but useful step forward. Nissan created a rear-view mirror with a full-width LCD that shows a wide-angle view behind you. The video feed comes from a rear-mounted camera. Flip a switch on the mirror and it reverts to being a traditional reflective mirror. Flip back and it's camera again. Nissan will unveil the camera at the Geneva Motor Show next week. It will first be used in the 24 Hours of Le Mans race on a car that doesn't have any significant rear view other than the side mirrors. Nissan hasn't said what passenger car it would be on, but it will be offered this spring as a dealer add-on accessory in the Japanese market, followed by an introduction to global markets in 2015. Sorry, that came upon me. Don't you hate that when you breathe in and you just cough without expecting it? Don't you hate that? Sorry about that. Nissan said it developed a special 4:1 aspect ratio LCD that fits inside a rearview mirror. Even a 16:9 wide-angle LCD common on laptops or desktops would be too squarish. It's linked to a 1.3 megapixel camera at the rear of the vehicle. In an artist's rendering, the camera is mounted at the top of the window glass on a crossover SUV. It isn't clear where it would go on a sedan, perhaps on the trunk or rear window glass. According to Andy Palmer, Chief Planning Officer and Executive Vice President of Nissan, the smart mirror, that's what they're calling it apparently. Everything's smart these days. Smartphones, smart mirrors, smart cars. Except not smart cars. Don't even look at a smart car. These stupid little cars. Don't even. Get yourself a nice, Nissan Sentra or a Toyota. Hey, get yourself a Toyota from Capital Toyota. Why not? They're a good car. Toyotas are good cars, actually. David Toulis drives a Toyota Camry. Very nice car. Get yourself one of those. According to Andy Palmer, though, the smart mirror offers the possibility of new and exciting designs for our upcoming models because smart rear view mirror. I don't know why that's so hard to say. You ever try to say rear view mirror real quickly? Rear view mirror is an alternative to a very wide rear window. There we go. Maybe it's my accent. I just can't say rear very well. It comes out sounding weird. Rear view mirror is an alternative to a very wide rear window for good visibility. We'll have the flexibility to create new shapes and to further improve aerodynamics for better fuel efficiency. Hey, cool. Put another way, Nissan is playing catch up on on visibility, essentially, but faster than the competition. Car designs with high rear deck lids and big C rear pillars already restrict rear visibility. So this restores the rear vision drivers lost in the last generation. Also, SUVs with more side pillars generally have worse rear vision than cars. Sooner or later, the US will mandate backup cameras so that you don't back over kids, pets, and bicycles. Oh, that's the fun part of driving a car, though, is backing over kids, pets, and bicycles. I don't know why they try to keep me from doing that. Gosh. What's been proposed for several years and postponed by the Department of Transportation. Thanks, Department of Transportation. If Nissans are equipped with smart rear view mirrors, it's thought the automakers wouldn't need to put costly, their term, color LCDs in the center stacks of all cars. The problem is, automakers will need a center stack for LCD for infotainment. You can't tell buyers the 2 or 3 line display on the head unit is good enough for searching through 1,000 songs or a 500 name phone book. A few car models have already tried backup camera displays for their rear view mirror, produced by Gentex and other suppliers. Unlike Nissan's width of the mirror display, the Gentex style displays were small insets in the mirror. The image was so small that you might not see a child if there's sun flare on the lens, or if the person is wearing clothing that blends into the background. I actually always wear camouflage when I stand behind cars, just to make sure that they at least bump me, just to mess with them a little bit. Actually, I wear those clothes that you see where they wear the clothes that exactly match the background, so if you're not looking real closely, you won't notice a person's there. That's what I wear, and I stand behind cars. It's actually a lot of fun. You should try it. But anyway, the Nissan Smart Rear View Mirror is pretty cool, they say. Their words, not mine. It deals nicely with limitations on what the driver can see, but some questions remain. I love that objective reporting. The Nissan Rear View Mirror is pretty cool. Well, hey, I mean, if the writer of the article says it's pretty cool, it must be. Thanks, Extreme Tech. Will drivers have trouble adapting to a view that's 3 to 12 feet behind the mirror? If the view is so wide that you can see cars in your blind spot, does that make cars a couple hundred yards back too small? At night, will the headlamp glare on the lens be better, worse, or different from the glare on your eyeballs? Headlamp. They mean headlights? Oh, I wonder what they're talking about. Will this also double as a rear backup camera, and how will the driver judge the last 12 to 24 inches if the camera is mounted on top of a sloping rear glass? These are good questions. The camera might be more useful with blind spot warning so the driver doesn't miss a short car that's pulling alongside, which happens all too often. Nissan says the first car to use the rear view camera will be the Nissan Ziad MP. I assume the MP stands for megapixel. It's an experimental car, extant, and is capable, Nissan says, of running a lap, 8 miles or 13 kilometers at a time solely on electric power. Hey, 8 miles on electric power. Wow. That's a lot. ZOD stands for Zero Emissions on Demand. I think I get that from Charter. The other laps are run on the 90-pound 3-cylinder gasoline engine. The engine is so small, 20 by 16 inches, that will actually fit in a plane as a carry-on. Wow. There's actually no vision to speak of at all in that car, is the thing. If you see a picture of it, it's like one of those Formula One racers. But, yeah. For the race car, the rear camera should be a big advantage because even cars with inside rear view mirrors have limited vision. Nissan also has a significant small and medium-sized truck business. For the first time, for all tracks, but especially panel vans, drivers could actually see what's behind them, not just what's behind them in adjacent lanes. So that'll be nice. So Nissan's stepping up their game when it comes to visibility, which is good, which means other companies are probably going to follow suit, like Toyota, Ford, GM, what have you. So, good. This means that we'll be seeing increased visibility and hopefully increased safety too, as time goes by, as the old song goes. So, good to see, good to know. Speaking of cars, though, Tesla has their Gigafactory, or at least they're building one. They're working to have a Gigafactory. It's the next step in Musk's domination of the battery-powered world, according to Extreme Tech. Here's more proof that Tesla is thinking like a tech company, not a car company. Tesla plans to build a battery gigafactory. It's its name, not ours. That's what they're calling it. By 2010, or rather 2020, get my times mixed up, will have the capacity to produce 50 times the amount of batteries shipping in Tesla cars last year, 20 times the sales of all electric vehicles last year. These are the orders of magnitude increases when most automakers would kill to show a 10% increase in sales. Short as February was, Tesla has been on a roll this month. So, good. Interesting though, Tesla is a new car manufacturer. I mean, you can't find an old used Tesla yet. So, Tesla cars are kind of new, is what I'm trying to say. Which means they're doing amazingly well for a brand new car factory that's only just come onto the market, where they're trying to compete with the big cars. And it's apparently pretty popular with pretty rich people, which is good, but it's an electric car, which is a weird thing. The Tesla Model S is the best car it's ever tested, according to Consumer Reports. So Consumer Reports, again, has rated the Tesla Model S as the best car it's ever tested. Rumors swirled about a possible link-up between Tesla and Apple. Tesla stock is up almost 50% in the month, so much for battery fires damping interest, right? Remember that story? They're saying the battery fires, which happened once with the Tesla Model S, which was in a wreck, by the way, and it wasn't like the Tesla's defective, it was in a wreck, and then there was a fire, which happens with any other car, and they're saying that that's going to dampen interest, and people are going to go away and not want to buy Teslas. That's not how it is. But it's floating $1.6 billion in convertible notes to raise money for the factory. 4 states in the Southwest are clamoring to be chosen for the factory site, which Tesla is calling a gigafactory, or more properly, the gigafactory. That still leaves room for a Tesla factory in the future. Now, if only they could get it here in Tennessee, or maybe Georgia, where, they have Volkswagen already. Why not go for a Tesla Terafactory or a Tesla Gigafactory? Why not? Tesla's demand for lithium-ion batteries is immense, and that's after selling more than 20,000 cars last year. The Model S uses as many as 7,000 of the lithium-ion 18650 cylindrical batteries, which are slightly larger than the AA cells used in flashlights and cameras. Panasonic had been the supplier. Last year, Tesla reached out to others to add capacity. Now Tesla wants to build its own factory for batteries, so they won't be dependent on Panasonic anymore. Tesla says 4 states are likely finalists for the honor of getting the facility. In order of closeness to Tesla's Fremont, California production facility, they are Nevada, Arizona, New Mexico, and Texas. Tesla wants the site to have an abundance of solar and wind power and be in production by 2017, which is 3 years from now, and at a max capacity as soon as 2020. The giga in the name apparently comes from the 2020 plant capacity, 35 gigawatt hours per year in cells, or 50 gigawatt hours per year in packs, suggesting Tesla would bring in batteries from outside. The facility, of course, would be huge, as much as 10 million square feet. That's equal to 80 Home Depots, 50 aircraft carrier flight decks, or 5 Las Vegas convention centers. Wow. So more on this in just a second. This crazy Tesla Gigafactory. Then we're going to talk about Kickstarter's about to crowdfund its billionth dollar, according to TechCrunch. Good for them. Talk about that in just a second, so hold on. Hey, we're back. This is Generation Z. And we're talking about technology. Actually, we're talking about Tesla with their Gigafactory, which they're hoping to build on the west coast, or the west side of the United States, not really on the coast. None of those states are coastal. You get the idea. But I want to share this real quick. Channel 9 posted on their Facebook account, and I think I'll just share the info with you in case someone can help. Walker County Sheriff's detectives are asking for your help locating Michael Stephen Cooper. He was last seen walking away from Hutchinson Medical Center February 6th around 6:30 p.m. They say Cooper has a mental disability, and they please want you to help spread word if you can see, to see if you can get Cooper back with his family. So, he has a mental disability, and he walked out of Hutchinson Medical Center on February 6th at around 6:30 p.m. So if anybody has seen him, anybody knows where he is, please let the families know. And Walker County Sheriff's detectives are asking for your help, so call the Walker County Sheriff's office if you can, if you have seen Michael Stephen Cooper. So there's that. That's that regarding that. And I thought I'd spread that out there for anybody who might have any idea of what's going on. But we're talking about the Tesla Gigafactory. It's actually a facility, excuse me, but it's a plant. They're working to build their own batteries, is the idea. And you see, Tesla normally buys their batteries from Panasonic, which is all well and good, but when you get to be the size that Tesla is now, not the original Tesla, by the way, not Nikola Tesla, but the company Tesla, which builds electric cars, when you get to be that size, when you reach a certain age, you tend to want to expand. And part of that expansion is building your own batteries, apparently, if you're an electric car company. And that's just what they're doing. But get this. It's so crazily big, 10 million square feet, which is equal to 80 Home Depots, 50 aircraft carrier flight decks, or 5 Las Vegas convention centers. It would be set on 500, 1,000 acres, set on 500 to 1,000 acres, I should say, which is 0.8 to 2.3 square miles. By comparison, Ford's River Rouge, complex, where Henry Ford perfected mass production, is also about 1.5 square miles overall, and about 16 million square feet of factory space. That's a lot of feet. Tesla says it would employ 6,500 people. The site would also employ solar and wind power to provide energy. The factory will build battery cells and cell packs for Tesla cars. It would also produce and sell storage batteries to capture solar, wind, and hydro energy for peak periods. Similar batteries could also power a house for a couple of days. In Japan, the batteries in a Nissan Leaf will power a house there for a day or two. General Motors and ABB have a project where a used but not worn out Chevrolet Volt can be repurposed into a whole house power supply. It's uncertain if Tesla will sell excess battery capacity to other automakers. It could also be an assembly facility for the pending lower cost Tesla Model E, which would be cheaper in part because of the cheaper batteries. So could it be something will be cheaper because it uses cheaper materials? Estimates peg the factory's total cost at around $4 to $5 billion. Tesla announced a $1.6 billion bond issue this week. Panasonic, the sole and now primary supplier of Tesla's batteries, is said to be interested in being part of the venture with a $1 billion buy-in. This is part of Panasonic's de-emphasis on consumer electronics into an industrial supplier. The 4 candidate states will likely fall over each other trying to push money at Tesla in the form of highways into the plant, forgiven early years taxes and jobs/training programs. So this could bring a lot of jobs to whatever area it goes to, and obviously states are kind of clamoring for it, which is good. Obviously we need more jobs to be available. I just hope they have a system similar to what Volkswagen has, where the terms are nice and it seems to be an okay place to work. To the extent Tesla has a corporate conscience, it could ask pointed questions about each state's friendliness towards all people, not just fundamentalist heterosexuals. What are they saying here? To the extent it could ask pointed questions about each state's friendliness towards all people. Oh, I see what they're saying. The same day Tesla came out with plans for the Gigafactory, Arizona Governor Jan Brewer Wednesday vetoed Arizona SB 1062 that would have allowed businesses to deny service to LGBTQ. Q? What's Q? LGBTQ. What's the Q now? They keep adding letters. I don't even know. LGBTQ. All right, what's LGBT? Lesbian, gay, bi, transsexual, Q. What's Q? Lesbian, gay, bi, transsexual, and Q. I don't understand. Is it? Oh, it's Q, like Star Trek. That's what it is. The Q continuum. You know, they're really not provided many rights by Americans, and it's such a shame that the Q continuum is constantly discriminated against, despite the fact that they can snap their fingers and make whatever they want happen. In fact, they can alter the space-time continuum, but really, the Q continuum is just sadly discriminated against, and I won't have it. I'm just guessing. I don't know what the Q stands for, an LGBTQ. Oh, is it queer? Is that what it is? For real? LGBTQ. Let me look that up. I'll look that up while I'm reading more. Anyway. Customers on the account of their lifestyle getting in the way of business owners' religious beliefs. Brewer was also getting heat from the jock community, notably the Super Bowl committee and the Major League Baseball. You'd think of all people, they would be the ones against the LGBT, but apparently not. Add a new tab. I'm going to search for LGBTQ. It's like PDQ Bach or something. Anyway, all the news and rumors about Tesla are getting to have an impact on Tesla stock. It's an interesting stock and one of the hottest. If you read our story, that's Extreme Tech story, naming Tesla as the Extreme Tech car of the year in 2012, I did actually, and put $10,000 in Tesla stock at the start of 2013 by $35 share, you would have had $43,000 a year later and $76,000 this week when it hit $265 a share. All right, Wikipedia article for LGBT. Come on, what does the Q stand for? It actually doesn't say. Q, for those who identify as queer and or questioning their sexual identity as LGBTQ, recorded since 1996. Wow. I have never heard that before. I always thought it was just LGBT. That shows what a bigot I am. People. Man, I mean, I don't even get it, man. But whatever. I don't want to talk about the LGBT, apparently Q now. I'm gonna roll with my theory that it stood for the Q continuum because that's just way more interesting. But enough about Tesla. What about Kickstarter? Well, they're about to crowdfund their billionth dollar, according to TechCrunch. Hey, pretty cool, right? So how much money would you guess the internet has collectively thrown at Kickstarter? Don't bother whipping out the old graphing calculator. Kickstarter actually shares that number regularly. Sometime quite soon, Kickstarter will surpass $1 billion pledged. This comes from Kickstarter's own statistics page, where the company regularly provides a breakdown of where the money is going on the site. As of this morning, Kickstarter has seen $999,209,752 pledged to projects, or roughly $791,000 shy of the big B. They'll likely pass the billion mark sometime in the next few days. One thing worth noting, though, this is dollars pledged across successfully funded projects, projects in progress, and those that didn't meet their final goal. On Kickstarter, pledged money is only received if the campaign's target goal is met. Kickstarter says that of the $1 billion pledged overall, $858 million has been pledged to successfully funded projects, so that's a majority. Not bad. Other interesting stats that can be gleaned from the page: 135,270 campaigns have been launched on Kickstarter. Of those, 57,052, 43% reached their funding goal. Of the larger chunk that does not succeed, 10% of those didn't receive a single dollar. Ouch. While the games category is only ranked 6th in terms of number of successfully funded projects after music, film, art, publishing, and theater, it has by far the most campaigns that have raised over $1 million, and its campaigns have collectively raised more than any other category. If your campaign can raise 20% of its goal, it's 80% more likely to succeed. For the curious, Kickstarter takes a 5% cut of successful campaigns, and yeah, you really don't need your calculator. On the $858 million that has been pledged to successful projects at this point, that's $42 million or so that went to Kickstarter. So $42 million for a company that's only a few years old, that's not bad at all. Kickstarter's doing pretty well. And it's good to see. Kickstarter's a pretty cool company, pretty cool website. And what it does is, maybe you don't know, what happens is people propose an idea and they want it to get funded. So let's say it's a game, a movie, music, whatever. And they say, I have this goal for money. And it's venture capitalism, but on a much more minuscule scale when it comes to people. Because it's just anybody pushing money at it, and in small amounts. And you get perks for however much you put out. Like I put together $35 for the Minecraft documentary that my name is in the credits of. That was one of the perks. My name was in the credits. I got a DVD 2-disc set. I got a numbered collector's edition box for it. It's number 200 something, so not bad. And I got the backers kit, and I got the Blip Fest 2008 soundtrack, which was really cool, actually. The concert was really great. I actually listened to it on the way to work today. So that's how much I like it. It's been like 2 years, and I still listen to it. It's really good stuff. So that's how Kickstarter works. And if they reach their goal, then they do their thing. If they don't reach their goal, then you don't lose any money because they don't take it out of your account. It's pretty cool stuff. Well, according to ZDNet, the minister has admitted that Iran cannot block Facebook. Iran will not be able to keep up forever its ban on legal access to internet hubs such as Facebook, which has 4 million Iranian users. Culture Minister Ali Jannati says, such remarks by an Iranian official would have been unimaginable before President Hassan Rouhani, a reputed moderate, took office in August with a vow for more freedom. 4 million Iranians are on Facebook, and we have restricted it, said Jannati. We cannot restrict the advance of sex technology under the pretext of protecting Islamic values, said the minister. Access to the popular social networking site, along with others which Iranian authorities regarded as un-Islamic, immoral, or undermining the Islamic establishment, is obstructed by a massive filtering mechanism. But tech-savvy Iranians have resorted to measures known as anti-filters to circumvent the restrictions. Jannati drew a parallel with a ban on fax machines and videotapes and players imposed in the 1979 Islamic Revolution. If we look back, we see many of the actions that we took after the revolution were ridiculous. Banning fax machines, I don't think fax machines go against much of any religious views, although I am personally against fax machines because we have the internet now. It's like all these companies have fax numbers. It's like, come on, just let me attach a PDF. You would think that the age of fax would have died as soon as we had broadband and PDFs, but apparently not. Anyway, Rouhani has adopted a policy that promises greater tolerance on social, cultural, and media issues, a vow that helped him beat his conservative opponents in the presidential election last year. Speaking of fax machines, something that happened, and don't ever try this, but something that happened was, it was a call-in line. It was like, what was it, Jerry, I can't remember the guy's name, comedian. Not Jerry Seinfeld, no. But the guy who has Jerry's Kids, you know, with muscular dystrophy and all that. Anyway, I can only think of Jerry Seinfeld. It's driving me nuts. But anyway, he was doing one of his teledrives, and people called in with fax machines. It just drove them nuts because they'd answer the phone, they hear the horrible fax machine sound, and it drove them crazy. I thought it was pretty funny, but whatever. Unapproved sites in Iran are being put under the filtering system. The ban includes Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and numerous other sites, including blogs. Despite the ban, several Iranian officials are active on social networking sites. Foreign Minister Mohammad Javad Zarif has attracted nearly 850,000 Facebook followers by posting regular updates in Persian, and he operates the only verified account of an Iranian official on Twitter. He also has a YouTube account. Several pages are apparently run by Iranian officials, including a popular Twitter account at Hassan Rouhani, believed to be belonging to the president's office. Iran's ultimate authority, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, also has an online presence, with a Twitter account in Farsi and a Facebook page dedicated to him. So Iran is getting a little bit more progressive, but in a good way. Not in the LGBTQ way, but they're getting progressive in a way where it's like, yeah, you know, people should pretty much have access to Facebook if they want. Why not? Well, something that I've discovered as I have a cell phone now is it runs out of battery pretty fast. Fortunately, the owner of this station while he's away, his phone has the same charger as mine. So I just plug my phone into his charger without him ever knowing, ha ha ha. But it means I can charge my phone and sit at his desk and put my feet up on his desk and watch House of Cards when David Toulis does Nuganomics. No, not really. I'm actually, usually you'll probably see me in the background during Nuganomics with David Toulis, which is on from 1 to 3 every weekday. You see me in the background, it's probably because I'm checking my email and updating Facebook and Twitter and doing other show research on my phone. But I have been known to play a round of Angry Birds while listening to his show. But I actually am listening to his show, in case you're wondering. Because, don't think that I'm being disrespectful. I'm not. I actually do listen to his show quite often. That's Nuganomics.com with David Toulis. Nuganomics.com is also his website, by the way, which you can go to if you want to see his views on different things, his stories that he writes. Very good writer. Absolutely worth checking out. Nuganomics.com is his website. And his show is on from 1 to 3 every weekday right here on Copperhead 1240. It's an honor to be the show before him, to lead into his show. And it's quite a lot of fun actually doing the radio stuff with him. Because it's fun because he's not much of a tech whiz. He's actually very good with computers for someone his age. Like most people who are middle-aged tend to not get the whole computer thing. But I'm actually, very often I'm impressed with how well he handles things that go on, because the computer systems that we have are very confusing here. And I'm actually very happy that he's able to work with them as well as he does. But it's always a challenge to fix things when they break, and it's always fun to work on them anyway. But somehow, I don't know, it's not him. I know it's not. I just know it's not him, but something happens almost every time he comes in here, and something breaks. I know it's not him, but I think he's jinxed. He walks in the door and something breaks. It's like, come on. But I have fun fixing it, so it's fine for me. But right, charging phones is kind of a pain. Well, apparently you could charge your phone on the go with the Muganizer N11 QI wireless power bank, according to ZDNet. In the past, the writer of the article purchased Mugen power batteries for replacement or extended battery options on his devices. They recently sent along their Muganizer N11 QI wireless power bank. The writer of the article has used other portable battery solutions in the past, but they all required a cable connection to charge up your phone. The Muganizer N11 lets you place your QI-compatible smartphone down on the top to recharge your phone. Wireless charging is not widely available in phones, but Nokia has made it a priority on their Lumia devices and uses the QI standard. The Nexus 5 also supports QI wireless charging. I don't know if it's QI or QI or Key or what. You can also find cases and back replacements for your devices like the iPhone and Samsung Galaxy that add QI functionality. The Muganizer N11 QI wireless power bank has a 4,800 milliamp hour internal battery that you charge up via micro USB port. They include a USB to micro USB cable and a USB AC adapter to charge up the battery pack. Good for them. If you don't have a phone with QI support, then you can use the full-size USB port on the N11 with a cable to charge up your phone. Adjacent to the USB port is a small button that you press to initiate charging of your device. You'll see 6 colored LEDs on the top rear button, near the button I should say. They glow from pink to blue to green to indicate available charging capability of the battery pack. And basically you will notice the QI logo in the center top of the Muganizer N11 with a circle of raised rubber around the logo. This is the active spot for your wireless charging, so you need to make sure that your device is centered on the battery pack. The writer of the article tested out the Nokia Lumia 1020 and Icon on the N11, and they both connected just fine. So it uses induction, which is a method that Nikola Tesla used way back in the day, and we're just now figuring out how to use it for smartphones. The writer of the article says that he has QI plates on his or her desk, and we would all love to go on a wireless charging strategy for all of our devices, but unfortunately that doesn't seem to be very viable right now, but oh well. I'd love to wirelessly charge all my devices. That'd be great. I mean, think about that. You just set your device down on your desk and it starts charging. That way, you don't really have to worry about plugging in your phone. You can just set it down and be sure that it's going to be charging. It sounds nice. But, oh well, whatever. Let's talk about this, though. 530-pound exosuit is a submarine that you can wear, according to The Verge. The Verge. 6.5-foot tall, 530-pound aluminum suit looks like something out of an action movie. In reality, it has an entirely different, more intriguing purpose. Come this summer, scientists will be using the suit, known as the exosuit, to dive up to 1,000 feet in the ocean with the aim of collecting and studying bioluminescent fish. At such extreme depths, and despite almost no visible light, a bounty of mysterious glowing fish thrive, and with the exosuit, scientists will observe these fish like never before. It really looks like one of those old 18th century suits, and actually, as the article points out, it does look like a Big Daddy from BioShock. Oh, and I should mention too, by the way, the email for the show is generationz1240@gmail.com, and that's generationz1240@gmail.com, and the Twitter for the show is at generationz1240 on Twitter. That's at generationz1240@gmail.com. The exosuit itself is the latest atmospheric diving system, a term for suits that protect the operator in a bubble of hospitable conditions. This means that divers using a suit like this feel the same pressure that you and I do here on the surface of the planet. They just don't have to be placed in a decompression chamber immediately after a dive, which is nice. Such suits have existed for over 100 years. Early models look more like a Big Daddy than the exosuit. That's from BioShock. But this latest version is lighter and allows for more precise movements. And that's thanks to 18 rotary joints, highlighted in red, that allow the diver to maneuver their arms and legs, and despite the suit's size, it's basically effortless to pilot in the water, according to the American Museum of Natural History's dive safety officer, Michael Lombardi, who's trained with the system and will be conducting the deep-sea dives later this year. So think about that. Technology that allows us to dive, underwater thousands of feet, or at least 8,000 feet, without having to worry about decompression or anything like that. Isn't that amazing? Technology, I love it. But man, think about that. Being able to dive at depths like that, look at glowing fish, being in a suit like that, you just better hope nothing goes wrong. But I really love that idea. That's why I like BioShock so much. I love the underwater thing, which is funny because I actually hate swimming. I really hate swimming, but I loved BioShock, and I love the underwater thing. It says, we feel like we're walking on the moon because there's just a handful of studies in this area. So there's just so little is known about the bottom of the ocean on our own planet that it feels like you're walking on the moon because it's just like an alien planet underneath the very area that we live. Think about that. They got these suits now so we can start exploring and learn more about what's beneath our feet, or beneath our oceans anyway. Amazing.